when you say an awake person, what you're saying really, and I know what you mean, but what you're saying is that awareness is aware of the person. That's not an awake person, because there is no person. Awareness is aware of the person, right? And the consistent practice of paying attention in such a way where the awareness is aware of the person, right? And so the awareness is watching, just like the space in this room is watching, right? The awareness is watching, but it's not involved. So the person continues to play its role in the world. The person continues to play the game that we're all playing here, right? But now that's not the identity. But now that's not who or what we are anymore. Because what this is about is freedom. Freedom from what? Well, freedom from suffering, but what's the source of the suffering? You know, the source of the suffering is identifying yourself with something that you're not. The body, the personality, the roles you play, the thoughts you have, the feelings you have, the physical sensations you have, right? That's all the manifestation, you know, that's all what's happening, or that's all, you know, you could look at it that way, it's what's happening. So the personality, because of the watching of awareness, a process occurs. Because, see, once the shift occurs and the awakening occurs, right? And you're awake now, meaning that you know what you are, right? Before you didn't know. You know what you are. It doesn't mean that will stay that way, no. But at least it's a shift in identity. Now, so you recognize yourself as awareness, but having recognized yourself as awareness, the programming that has it that you're a personality in a physical body still runs. And when that program is still running and it brings up something that is, say, a strong emotion, right? That it captures your attention, right? And then your attention goes off into the emotion, and the emotion is associated with certain thoughts, and the thoughts are associated with certain situations, and so forth and so on, right? So now you're back. So now you've lost the sense of yourself, right? And you're back in the identification with the body and the personality. But because you have reoriented your identity, it now becomes possible to wake up again and realize, oh, I went back to sleep, you know, and then you come back. It's the same as meditation. Exact same thing as meditation, right? And as you do that in your life, see, in meditation, like I said, it's just a practice, and what you do with the practice of meditation is you're developing your ability to pay attention consistently, to be aware of your attention, and to know that without paying your attention, you're in trouble. If you stop paying attention, you're in trouble, okay? So that's what you're doing when you practice meditation, developing your ability to pay attention. And also, as you practice formal meditation, you're moving your attention out of the thought stream, out of the thinking activity, so that you experience temporary moments of freedom. Because when you're not in the thinking activity and you're paying attention to the body breathing, right, there is no suffering going on. It's just being, it's just presence, it's just awareness. You're learning how to be yourself. You're learning that the awareness that you are is here. You didn't have to do anything to get there. It's already here. You just moved your attention from what was preoccupying your attention to what's always here, that is seldom given attention. And so when you do that in meditation, you're introducing the mind to the truth. You're introducing to the mind to the truth. What does that mean? It means that in those moments of awareness, when you're paying attention to the breath, awareness is now recognizing the body as other than it. And that information is being sent back to the system. But it's being sent back only in momentary flashes, right? This is why it's so important to practice meditation consistently, to get that transmission back to happen as much as possible, okay? If you do practice it consistently and that transmission does get back as much as possible, it strengthens your ability to wake up whenever you fall back into it. Because over time, you have recognized the truth of yourself, but now you're practicing being that truth. That's different. The recognition makes the possibility of being what you are real because you recognized it. Before you recognized it, it didn't exist. It wasn't real. You were just being a person. That's all there was, right? But now that's not true now. So now there's a possibility that's in existence. And then through the practice in your life, by training yourself to recognize, to catch when you go offline, to recognize when you go offline, right? Even if when you recognize that you went offline, you can't do anything but be aware that you're offline, but you can't get out of being offline. That happens. Right? Part of the process of transitioning to total freedom is having times when you're aware that you're crazy, but there's nothing you can do about it. You know, you're aware of it, but it's still dominating you. It's still causing what you're doing, like that. And the things that involve strong emotion and the things that scare you the most and the beliefs you have that are the strongest beliefs, when they come into play, right, it's going to pull your attention into that, right? But now you have this new possibility. Not only do you have this new possibility, but you have this intention and motivation to be free, which means that you have to wake yourself up when you go back to sleep. You have to train yourself to notice that you've gotten weird. You've got to train yourself to notice that you're now in an angry state, an angry mental and emotional state. You have to train yourself to notice that you're now seeing the person you love as a threat by practice. This is what the practice is all about. You know, if a baseball player is practiced enough, right, at being at bat, right, there are things that become possible that weren't possible before they were practiced enough to be at bat and to be able to look at the pitcher and read the picture in such a way where you have a good guess at what he's going to throw next. You know, you can use your team that are trying to read the signals, right? And if they break the code, then your team can signal you, your third base coach can tell you what the next pitch is going to be, right? This is all things that didn't exist until you got further involved in the game. And you practice subtleties so that you're not just hitting the ball now, you're paying attention to the pitcher and trying to get a sense of when it's going to be a fastball or it's going to be a curveball, like that. And then to play the strategies, right? Given what's going on in the game, right? You may not be, your goal may not to hit the ball at all. You may be trying to force the walk, right? There's all kinds of ways to be at bat, not necessarily just hitting a home run. And without just hitting a home run, you can still make a difference and do something useful that can move the progress forward of the game, right? Same thing is true here. As you continue to be involved in these teachings and practices, it's why it's so important to be highly motivated to keep deepening your understanding. It's just like when I was talking to you earlier about, that's you know, when you listen to Angelo talk about this, he says the same thing, you know. That's the last thing the ego's going to let you get by it, that there's no doer. You know, it's going to use everything in its power to keep you convinced that that's just not true. In spite of the evidence, right? So by deepening your understanding, you know, one of the ways that I dealt with that, right, is I knew that it wasn't going in. You know, I knew that it wasn't making sense. You know, I accepted that it was probably true. I don't argue with the masters. I think the masters have credibility, so I accepted it that it's probably true. But now my interest was, can I understand this enough to actually see it, to actually see how it is? And if you study the teachings of the masters, this is what happens. You begin to have deeper understanding and more realization. You begin to see more of what these teachings are about. And that makes it easier to maintain a high degree of motivation and intention. Because you have to have a high degree of motivation and intention, because the program that you are, right, will run, and its program is to continue to do what it's always done, right? To avoid pain and seek pleasure, right? And one of the ways that that operates is that the system considers confusion to be uncomfortable, like pain. So you don't want to be confused, right? However, interestingly enough, confusion is an absolute necessity. It's an absolute necessary part of the process to wake up. So the system is operating with a different agenda, right? And so when people are confused, they get upset. Oh, something's wrong. Something's wrong, I'm confused. No, nothing's wrong. How could you not be confused? If you're really interested in learning, right, it means that you're open to pay attention to and take on and consider things that make no sense to you right now. Because if you're really interested in learning, then you're interested in learning things that you know nothing about. And because you know nothing about them, they may not fit what you already know at all. But given the fact that there are people walking around, or people who have walked on this earth from different religions, different places, different times, saying the same thing about this, oh, that should impress you with some degree of credibility, right? So if that credibility is there and you accept that degree of credibility, right, then whether you understand it or whether you recognize what they're talking about or not, take it by faith and keep looking. Take it by faith. Don't just discard it. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm just going to keep doing what I do." That's ignorant. Right? That you have to begin to recognize the personality for what it is. You have to begin to see the personality. You have to begin to see the personality. Now, if you identify with the personality, you're not seeing the personality, you're being the personality, right? And that is the condition that people are in when they begin this process. You're being that. You're being that. And when you ask questions, you're being that asking a question. That's why when people ask questions, I direct your attention back to you and say, look at who's asking. That's much more important than the question, because usually the questions the personality generates are hypothetical, aren't they? And let me tell you something. You want to save yourself a lot of time and suffering? Do not entertain hypothetical realities. They don't exist. They don't exist. So why deal with hypothetical realities when you got a real one here that needs attention, right? Pay attention to the real one, right?